Hello and welcome to another episode of my Kerbal Space Program Let's Play in the JNSQ Planet Pack. Today we are starting off this episode with a launch of the Athena 1 rocket, and it's just another launch. It's kind of overkill for what it's launching, which we'll get to here in a little bit. Overkill payload I was talking about earlier is this little space telescope. It really didn't need something like this to get up here. It probably could have launched off of something lighter, but I didn't feel like coming up with a new rocket, even though it would have been really easy for something like this. So instead I just launched off of what I already had. So yeah, I took some pictures of the Mun, Lindor, and Huygens, and I think I took pictures of other things, but I don't know. Here's Lindor. And then next up will be its moon Huygens, one of its moons actually. It has like a handful of them just floating around it. And I decided to call this the Dollar Store James Webb because it uses a really similar telescope, but it's just staying in low orbit and barely looks anything like James Webb. Okay, so in the previous episode, I had sent some Kerbals to the surface of the Mun to collect data to research in a lab in orbit around the Mun, and that data has all been researched now, which means it is time for them to return to Kerbin. Now, for some reason, I had this notion that the service module was going to survive the first pass through the atmosphere. Yes, the first, I'll get to that here in a little bit, and I tracked the antenna, but stuff started blowing up, and I ditched it. The reason this was the first of many passes is that when I ejected from the Mun and lowered my orbit into Kerbin's atmosphere, it was too low to deorbit the capsule in a single pass, so I had to go through a few aerobraking maneuvers using friction from the atmosphere to slow down to a suborbit. If you don't feel like sitting through roughly 2 minutes of aerobraking, then skip to the point at 4 minutes and 32 seconds into the video for the final aerobraking and re-entry. the capsule splashed down in the ocean, and the crew was recovered and had gained some ribbons for what happened over the course of their mission to the Mun. Valentina got ribbons for being one of the first 2 Kerbals to land on the Mun, and piloting a rocket with a mass of 1,000 tons or more, which is considered a heavy launch vehicle by the Final Frontier mod. Bob got a Science 5 ribbon for researching 200 or more science points. He also earned other ribbons such as First Flag on the Mun, First EVA on the surface of the Mun, First Spacewalk in orbit around the Mun, being the other of the first 2 Kerbals to land on the Mun, and the same heavy launch vehicle ribbon as Val. Fredel received a Science 5 ribbon and the heavy launch vehicle ribbon. Valentina got so few ribbons because she didn't leave the lander, which is a shame because she could have gotten experience points just by walking around and planting a flag, so she'll have to level up some other way. Fredel didn't do too much because there were 3 seats in the capsule and 2 on the lander, which led to Fredel being the unfortunate soul to receive the Michael Collins treatment, also known as staying in the command module while the other 2 crew members go to the surface. And Bob is just an overachiever, I guess. So, I managed to get over 3,000 science out of this mission, and with those points, I unlocked a few technologies. I know one thing I unlocked was the 3.75 meter probe core, and I just got that so that way I can make my 3rd stages more like the S4B in the sense that they'll have their own guidance. And then everything else I really don't remember, although I think some of it may have been spaceplane stuff, I really don't remember. I unlocked actuators and things of that sort. So if you watched the previous episode of this series, then you'll know I talked about using the Athena 1 core stage to make some sort of Delta 4 Heavy wannabe, and this rocket was the result of that. However, this is pretty unlike the Delta 4 Heavy outside of appearances. I mean, it's, for one thing, those 2 outer boosters cross-feed into the central core, and what this thing is launching is a solar truss that is going to go into Athens Station and orbit around Minmus, and this truss will just dock to it, and then a solar panel will dock to the truss, and the truss is just kind of going to be there as a spacer of sorts. It'll make sense once you see the whole expansion I have planned, but I guess that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to leave a like. If you didn't like it, then dislike it. If you have anything to say about it at all, then please leave a comment. I'm open to criticism. And if you want to hear about it every time I upload, please consider subscribing and enabling all notifications. That is all from me for now. Goodbye.